3/4 of the Earth is covered by water, but only 2% of it is drinkable, and most of that is disappearing faster than ever before. Lakes are drying up, rivers are vanishing, and plains are cracking open. California has been in drought for 1,200 years. They've poured trillions of dollars into trying to save every drop, but in the middle of a desert where life should have long disappeared, an oasis remains green and alive. And the strangest part, it wasn't created by humans. Let's keep going to find out who they are and how they saved the planet. 30 years ago, if you had visited the Dixie Creek area in eastern Nevada, you would have thought you were standing in the middle of a dead land. The ground was cracked from drought, the grasslands had vanished, the cattle were gone, and locals would say, even the cactus can't survive here anymore. And it made sense. The average annual rainfall was less than 9 inches, even lower than in the Sahara. But then something no one expected happened. One day people started to notice that the fragile trickle of water no longer disappeared as quickly as before. A faint green streak appeared along the dry creek bed. Week by week, month by month, grass began to grow. Young willow trees took root, and the first birds returned to build their nests. NASA's satellite time-lapse images revealed that in just 15 years, this dead land gradually turned green. And by the 30th year, Dixie Creek had become a true oasis in the heart of Nevada's desert. So, what created this miracle? It wasn't humans. It wasn't a billion-dollar project. It was the beaver the animal scientists call the climate engineer. At first glance, they might not look impressive. A thick, stocky body weighing around 40 to 60 pounds, a shiny, waterproof brown coat, and a flat tail shaped like a paddle. But don't let their slow movements fool you. A beaver's front teeth never stop growing. They're as hard as steel and can slice through a tree trunk as thick as a human thigh in just a few minutes. Their webbed feet let them glide underwater like Olympic swimmers, and their transparent eyelids work like goggles, allowing them to work for hours in murky water without losing direction. Their lodges are also masterpieces of natural architecture, dome-shaped with 2 rooms, one dry, one wet, and a single underwater entrance. When winter comes and the river freezes, they stay calm and cozy inside, feeding on bark and aquatic plants they've stored from the previous season. And here's something surprising. Beavers are complete vegetarians. They don't hunt fish or eat meat at all. Once a beaver family moves in, the entire landscape begins to transform as if by magic. They fell trees, drag branches, pile up mud and stones, and build a series of small dams connected like a string of pearls along the stream. Each dam stands more than 3 feet tall enough to turn a dry creek into a natural pond. In Canada, there's even a beaver dam stretching over 2,700 feet, nearly the length of 9 football fields, and it's visible from space. But what amazed scientists wasn't the scale, it was the ecological impact. After years of observation, researchers found that at Dixie Creek, beavers could build dams about 1 to 5 feet high and 6 to 10 feet wide, capable of holding up to 10,000 cubic meters of water, roughly the volume of 4 Olympic-sized swimming pools. But they don't just build one dam. Beavers construct a chain of interconnected dams layer by layer, forming a natural hydraulic shock absorber system, something humans took centuries to fully understand. When water flows in, each small dam slows it down, allowing it to seep into the ground instead of rushing away. Beneath the mud, groundwater begins to recover. Within just a few years, the water table around Dixie Creek rose by more than 1.5 feet, and the wetlands expanded for miles. NASA confirmed this through satellite imagery, stating, "Small beaver dams create green patches that can be seen from space. The ponds between the dams act as natural humidifiers, Evaporating moisture that rises into the air meets cooler currents and falls again as localized rain, reducing surrounding temperatures by up to 7 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's not all. What they do next will surprise you even more. When heavy rain falls over the Nevada desert, instead of causing flash floods like before, the water now meets layer after layer of beaver dams, working like a chain of natural hydraulic shock absorbers. The water flows over slowly, no longer sweeping everything away in violent torrents. A study in Oregon found that in streams inhabited by beavers, peak flood levels dropped by 20 to 60% and the flow velocity was cut in half. Then when the dry season arrives, those same dams become fire shields. During the 2018 Sharps fire in Idaho, which burned over 250 square kilometers of forest drones, captured a sight no one could believe: a single green strip in a sea of flames, a beaver pond. The trees were still standing. Birds and wildlife found refuge safely within it. While everything around was burning, the beaver's water quietly released moisture, keeping life alive in the middle of destruction. "Water doesn't burn," said one researcher. And beavers know that better than anyone. But the beaver's superpowers don't stop there. They're also living water treatment plants. Their dams trap sediment nutrients and nitrates, some of the most common agricultural pollutants. Studies in Utah show that beaver wetlands reduce nitrogen levels by up to 45%, matching the efficiency of a multi-million-dollar water treatment facility. And the best part, it all happens naturally. No electricity, no labor, no chemicals. While the world struggles with climate crises, who would have thought that a creature smaller than a backpack could quietly help cool the planet? According to a 2024 NASA study, regions with beaver populations reflect 5% less sunlight, meaning they absorb less heat, creating ecological cool spots on an increasingly warming map. In North America, the Canadian government even passed the Beaver Restoration Act, aiming to restore over 10,000 wetlands and officially recognizing beavers as a natural climate defense weapon. Across Europe, the Rewilding Europe campaign has reintroduced them to Germany, the Netherlands, and Poland, turning dry canals into networks of natural water reservoirs, a solution no man-made treatment plant could ever achieve for less. But nature doesn't stop when the beavers leave. It simply moves into a new phase of life. When the willows, aspens, and birches around the dams have all been gnawed down, the beaver family quietly packs up and moves on, leaving behind what seems like a collapsing structure. A few months later, the water begins to drain away, the dam starts to crack, and the mud that had built up over years suddenly becomes the most fertile soil in the entire desert. You can think of it as a kind of biological legacy. Each fallen dam gives birth to a new green meadow, lush and rich, where deer, elk, and waterfowl return to live. Ecologists have measured that within just 2 to 3 years, the density of grass and shrubs around an old dam site can increase 5-fold compared to the surrounding desert. And as young trees grow, new willows take root along the edges of the newly formed streams. And so the cycle begins. Again, the beavers return, build new dams, create new ponds, and one day they leave once more. Each of these life cycles lasts for decades, leaving behind hundreds of hectares of grasslands and wetlands, forming a chain of green oases across the desert. Scientists call this a self-restoring ecosystem cycle, one of the most sustainable natural balance models on Earth. After witnessing what beavers accomplished in Dixie Creek, scientists began asking a simple question: if we can't outsmart nature, why not learn from it? And that's how the beaver mimicry movement was born. In states like Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico, people are now building soft dams made of wood reeds and mud structures designed entirely after the beaver's model. These small, humble constructions use no cement, no steel, yet they've helped revive streams that had been dry for decades. In Utah alone, more than 50 miles of rivers have been restored thanks to these beaver-inspired dams, leading to a 30% increase in groundwater, the return of vegetation, and the comeback of migratory birds. When it comes to cost, the difference is almost unimaginable. A conventional man-made dam can cost around $50,000, requiring teams of engineers, machinery, and construction permits. Beavers, on the other hand, do it for free, naturally, sustainably, and without leaving a single trace of carbon emissions. In fact, researchers in Oregon have even coined a term for this infrastructure of instinct. However, not everyone sees the beaver as the Earth's hero engineer. For many farmers and landowners, it's more like a flat-tailed troublemaker. In just one night, a beaver can turn an entire hayfield into a pond, block drainage pipes, and flood a road leading to a farm. Across North America, flooding of farmland caused by beaver activity is estimated to cost over $100 million every year, and some states spend millions more just to remove their spontaneous dams. In Alberta, Canada, one beaver dam once flooded a railway line for 48 hours, causing damages greater than a small storm. But humans aren't entirely innocent. We've been encroaching on the beaver's territory for decades. As cities and farms expand, the streams, ponds, and wetlands where beavers once thrived have rapidly disappeared. In the past 50 years, North America has lost more than half of its natural wetlands, which means hundreds of thousands of beaver lodges have been destroyed. Pushed out of the forests, they're forced to adapt, settling in drainage ditches, reservoirs, and even city parks. And that's where conflict begins. On one side, humans want dry land for agriculture. On the other, the beaver, a creature simply doing what it's done for millions of years, holding water and restoring land. In Oregon and Utah, farms that chose to coexist with beavers have proven the opposite. Irrigation costs dropped by up to 40%, pastures stayed green year-round, and groundwater remained more stable than in nearby creeks. To bridge the gap between the two worlds, scientists developed a device called the Beaver Flow Device. It's a simple pipe installed through the dam to regulate water levels, allowing excess water to drain while keeping the dam intact. A simple yet humane solution. The beavers get to stay and the farmers keep their harvests. Today, what happened in Dixie Creek is no longer just Nevada's story. The beaver effect has spread across the world. In the United States, numerous reintroduction programs are underway in Utah, Colorado, Idaho, and Oregon regions, once so dry that governments spent hundreds of millions of dollars pumping water to keep rivers alive. In Scotland, beavers were brought back after more than 400 years of extinction, and within just a decade, they helped raise groundwater levels in the River Tay Basin by 30%, creating habitats for more than 150 species of birds, insects, and fish. Germany, Norway, and Sweden soon followed, calling them the unpaid engineering team. But like every invention of nature, beavers also have a dark side. In the southern tip of South America, the Tierra del Fuego archipelago, where ancient cedar forests had stood for thousands of years, a single decision in the 1940s triggered an ecological catastrophe. Argentina imported 25 pairs of beavers from Canada, hoping to start a fur industry. No one could have imagined that just 80 years later, their population would explode to over 100,000, devastating more than 40 million hectares of forest. Lush woodlands turned into dead, flooded wastelands. With no wolves or bears to keep them in check, the beavers became uncrowned kings, and to this day, nature there has yet to recover. And that is the incredible story of a small creature once hunted to near extinction, now becoming the climate engineer helping the earth breathe again. Without speaking advertising or asking for reward, beavers quietly work day and night to keep our planet green. They remind us that sometimes the greatest forces of change come from the most humble beings, So what do you think? Should the world let nature be the engineer instead of us? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to join us in discovering more of the Earth's extraordinary hidden wonders.